Hey everybody, welcome to the Away from the Rink podcast. This is Gio. Just so you know, everything we talk about here is our own opinion and doesn't represent any organization or sponsor. Listener discretion is advised. If you want to reach out, check the link in our bio or email us directly at afterpodcastofficial@gmail.com. Are you guys ready to rock and roll? Let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the After Away from the Rink podcast. We are on episode 8. Got your boy DJ McGrath here and my co-host, my brother Giovanni Flaminio G-Bones. Big game today, brother. How did that go? I know you rolled in a couple minutes late, but you came in with a smile on your face. So how did it go?
It was awesome, man. Qualified for league finals here, citywide U15A league. Super proud of the fellas. You know, we were up 1-0 in the best of 3 and got the opponent's best effort tonight. They had 2 separate 2-goal leads, one in the third period, and the boys battled back. Just tremendous adversity facing, and couldn't be prouder of the group. So yeah, off to league finals. Series starts this Friday, and hopefully we can get it done.
Yeah, that's huge, man. That's something I missed back in the day. You know, third period, come back, get to go in the room, get a celly with the boys. And it's just, you know, that's one thing I miss. I don't not necessarily miss being on the ice and being through those certain situations, but man, just hanging out with the boys after the game, after a big W, and getting to hang out and experience and enjoy the feelings, the joys of winning. And I think that's very important. G, how was the weekend, man? Did you get up to anything important over there?
It was interesting weekend, man. Week in general, like just a lot of life stuff hitting at once, right? Home front stuff with family, relationship, work, recovery commitments. It's just at times can just seem daunting, everything that's going on. But, you know, we were talking a bit before, like we have these tools today to kind of overcome that. Like I reached out to you, you know, got some stuff off my chest. Reached out to a couple other people I trust, did some active stuff, went for a walk, you know, little spiritual connection. And today, lo and behold, much better day. So grateful for that we can like overcome that stuff today and not, I used to sit in that or let it define me, consume me, you know, for days sometimes, man. So yeah, and this is a big part of it, dude. Get looking forward to this, right? Knowing, hey, every week we're hopping on here or prepping through the week. That gives me purpose as well, man. So again, yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, I think it's what you said there is especially picking up your phone and making that phone call. And you did give me a phone call, and I might not know the answers, and that's why people listening right now, like if someone's calling you and sometimes they just want to vent, certain situations going on, you don't need to know all the answers. And that's what I did. I can't relate with you, G. I don't have any kids and a relationship like you do. And I just listen, man. And I remember right after you thanked me and said, I just needed to vent and get some stuff off your chest. So It's important, man, especially being a man, picking up that phone. Sometimes Mr. Walsh always says, always go back to that video, man. Like your phone could weigh 30 pounds, but once you pick up that phone and just talk and ask for help and just get shit off your chest, it's way better. And that saved my life. I know it's a big portion of your life. And that's a big portion of my next guest here, episode 8. I am super fortunate. I'm super thankful to have one of my good buddies. Got to know him over my recovery when I moved to Saskatoon, Mr. Logan Harland. Some players chase the dream. Others feel like they have to become it. Saskatoon's own Logan Harland left home at 14 years old to pursue hockey, carrying the weight of expectations from day one, the pressure to be the guy, to make the NHL, to not be seen as a failure. It followed him through every league, every team, every shift. From the WHL to Junior A and beyond, Logan's identity became tied to performance, status, but behind the scenes, the mental battle was building. Anxiety, self-doubt, and eventually turning to substances to cope. Even while playing close to home with the Saskatoon Blades, he knew deep down the dream was slipping away. What followed was rock bottom, and a turning point changed everything. Today, Logan's a counselor, a father, and someone using his story to help others find their way through the darkness he once faced. This is a story about pressure, identity, and rebuilding a life with purpose. Logs, man, how we like to start this Afterway podcast, man. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing all right, my man. I've been busy with preemie baby at home, 16-month-old baby at home, a relationship, but the spring's coming. I'm happy. I'm so honored to be here with you fellas. I really, really appreciate you guys reaching out. That just makes me feel so special just to share my story. And like you said, that's a big part of my career. It's a big part of my life, and it's a big part of my healing, just like I think both of you guys. So I truly appreciate this opportunity, fellas.
Yeah, and I think it's huge, man, because what I like about you, Harlan, is you pick up your phone and you're very vulnerable now. I know you're a newly father. I know you have baby Hendrix out there, and now, or you had Hutton, sorry, first,
Yeah,
and
you're
now,
right,
and now previously you got Hendrix. How is it, man? I know you said premature baby.
Yeah.
You kind of always tell me, I always ask you questions. How is it being a dad? And you said right when, when your son comes into life, that's kind of where everything just turns, hey?
Totally.
For the good.
Like I just, I think a lot of athletes, it's just something that happens where we get very into our own selves and we worry so much about our own problems and our own stress. And I'm sure, Gio, having your own children, like that just instantly stopped. Like I have purpose now. And it's through suffering, and it's not easy. It's the hardest challenge I've ever had, but it's definitely the most rewarding challenge I've ever had. Like I have little Huddy now that we have little Hendrix that's here now, mom's spending most of her time with him. So I've built a huge bond with Hutton, and being a father, like I honestly just can't explain it because it's just changed my outlook on everything.
Yeah, I know that's super important. Gee, you could probably relate with him. Any advice you could give?
Yeah, seriously,
Logan?
I'll take some advice.
Man, I don't, I'm maybe not necessarily the best guy for advice. I've had my struggles through parenthood, but again, it ties into that adversity piece. And like, yeah, I think I'll just touch on like my experience with my two daughters, like the miracle side of it, man. Like I was not a super religious person, like in much in my adult life. But when my kids were born, like that actual act of coming into the world and just like the limbs, exposing themselves, and it's like, holy shit, man, like this is actually miraculous, so that those are defining moments in my life with my two daughters' births. But today it's pretty big gap with my girls, 13 and 4.
Yeah.
It's different parenting styles for each. And luckily with my youngest daughter, the partnership, as you've touched on, with your wife carrying the burden that she does.
Yes.
And that's a big part of it, right? Defining those roles. I think that's important. If you want any advice, like find what you're good at and be able to communicate to her maybe where you need the support. And that's worked for the most part for me. So
like, honestly, when you bring up, 3 words, like you talked about miraculous, like
Yeah.
it's a miracle, isn't it? Like I honestly, the connection that my wife and both of my boys have is so special. Like it's before they even came out of her, like they're just so connected. I think that's another thing you said was communication. That's something I've really had to work on with my wife, because it's you get steered in different directions. And no, I couldn't agree more with what you say, Jago.
yeah.
I think that's very powerful. And I mean, obviously I can't relate with it, but it's just two men having that real talk, something that we wish we would have had back when us three were going through our active addictions. But this is why we're here. This is why we're going to talk about the real shit. Harlan, man, great childhood. I know you were kind of born on a farm, and that's why I have so much respect for you. Kind of tough, kind of growing up a little tougher area, kind of learned how to live, kind of, you know what I mean? When you're on a farm, you got to fix stuff on your own. You got to make those hard decisions on your own, especially at a young kid. How was your childhood growing up on a farm?
I really have a ton of respect. Like it's a generational farm. It's my grandpa who started it. He brought cattle over from Switzerland, actually brought us Simmental cattle. And now we have 1,000 head of Simmental Angus cattle. And, I learned how to be a man in a very traditional way. You don't show your emotions. You don't cry. Anxiety wasn't a damn word. When I grew up, depression wasn't a word. I don't think mental health was even a word for a lot of us growing up. And, I kind of learned to shove that shit down. And I realized from a young age, like, to be honest with you, I wasn't quite, I would say I couldn't deal with the 24/7 hours of the farm. So for me, it was hockey, and that was my way out. So with hockey, that manhood, or how I developed pushing down my emotions and who I was a man. I think that carried into hockey, which served me well for the first bit for sure. But then, it definitely caught up to me by the end.
Yeah, and you moved away at home at a young age too, and I think this is very important. 14 years old, Logan. You were probably hockey ready. Probably you didn't have, we probably wasn't asking questions, probably weren't being vulnerable. Hell, we didn't have mental health performance coaches or any of that growing up. So it's kind of like, I want to play out the best team. I want to play the quickest as possible. Probably you wanted everybody to think Logan Harland is the man. He's the hockey player. So you want to chase that dream as quick as you can to not let your outsiders down. And you go through that. How are those conversations with mom and dad? 14 years old, man, that's a very young age to move away. Talk about that.
And everyone asked me that, and I look back at that time, and I was guns a-blazing. Like, NHL was the goal. I looked up to Wade Redden. He grew up actually not far from me. He was a farm kid too. So my aspirations were NHL or bust kind of thing. And, my parents knew that. I remember my dad laying with me at bed at night, and he'd be like, what's plan B for you? Like, what do you want to do if hockey doesn't work out? And like, that actually offended me. I remember as a kid, I was like almost crying. I was like, are you kidding me? There is no plan B. Like, I'm making the show. This is what's going to happen. So at 14, when I had the opportunity to go play AAA away from home, I took it, and I was all aboard. And like, props to my parents, they didn't know any better. Like, I don't look at them and think like, why would you let your son leave at that age? They were just supporting my dream, which I think is very admirable as a parent now. But at the same time, like you said, I was hockey ready. I was a great player. I would say I was a big fish in a small pond, but at the same time, like, mentally, not even close.
Yeah. And how was it moving away? Because that's 14 years old. Did you fit in with your teammates? Because you played for Lloydminster, that's right. Yeah, you went out to Alberta. Like, how was that? Did you fit in with your teammates? Did you feel, because your ability and you're living with a completely different family, man, at such a young age? I was 15 years old. I wasn't 14. So how was that transition for you? Did it take you a lot longer to kind of feel comfortable?
Oh God, yeah. I don't know if I ever did feel super comfortable. Like, at that age, I deal with a lot of clients at that 14, 15-year-old age. And, the biggest motivator for anyone is fitting in. And for me, coming from a town where there's like 6 kids in my class and 5 of them were my cousins, like, it was pretty easy to fit in. And then you go to this big school, which wasn't really that big. It's Lloydminster. I felt out of place. And then, I think that carried a little bit into hockey. But for me, hockey was the only focus. It was my skills, what I was putting on, the point sheet, that kind of thing. So I would say right from a young age, I was living for others already. I was trying to be something I wasn't, just in a way to fit in. But I never was really, living my true, authentic self at that time.
Yeah, it's super relatable, man. I mean, I was a bit older than you guys when I was 17 when I moved to Kindersley, but even like the midget AAA level you were discussing in my hometown, as an underage, it was almost culture shock, because it was like, seniors in high school, so to speak, and I'm this kid still and like underdeveloped, touched on the mental side of it. Like, the only way I was able to fit in was through the compete level on the ice. I struggled to fit in off the ice, man. And I've shared this on previous episodes, like the partying and stuff. Like, that was instantly part of that culture. And I drank before, but like not to get drunk, right? And I just remember like struggling to fit in with that. Was that part of your experience as well? Like, just you touched on the mental side, but like the partying angle, because again, some of these kids are like getting ready to graduate high school, right? So like, what was that age gap like and that adjustment for you, man?
Yeah, like at that age, I guess that would be my second year bantam. So I was kind of like the older end, and there wasn't a lot of partying that time. But I remember like when I was 16 years old playing in my first junior league, like, that was my way of fitting in. I didn't know anything else. And when you see the older guys doing that, you're like, damn, like, that's my captain. Those are 19, 20-year-olds. And that seems like, a cool thing for that kid to do. And like, if I didn't have that fit in ability that you had, exactly what you were experiencing. So for me, exactly, that's what I started engaging in, just to feel like I was a part of something bigger than just the hockey.
Yeah, that's tough, and I could definitely relate with you. Me leaving Kindersley at a young age to go to Saskatoon, didn't feel like I fit in. But man, when I started drinking that first rookie party, and that's kind of when I asked you, Harlan, your first rookie party, but that was kind of when I first started drinking, man. And I remember I was blackout drunk, making an idiot of myself, being the clown next day. Good job, Deej. You're a fucking beauty, man. You know what I mean? And I was like, this is what I got to do to fit in. That's was my mentality. How was your first rookie party? Was that kind of when you first started drinking, Harlan?
Yeah, probably the year before that, I started drinking to get drunk, like you said, to fit in. But I actually haven't thought about this for years until you bring this up. The first rookie party was in Bonnyville, Alberta. We were out in an acreage, and I got absolutely shit-faced. I think they had one of those things where there's a bunch of clear cups of liquid, and you had to like keep drinking until you found the water.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any water, but same thing. The next day in the room, you get all the props. you know, the pat on the back, you feel like, holy cow, like I'm really part of this. I'm part of a junior squad. Like they see me now. I'm seen, I'm heard, but not for the right reasons looking back now.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you obviously were, when you showed up to the rink, Harlan, because obviously looking back, you're a hell of a hockey player. I know hearing from other people that you're a workhorse. Like you're a guy that anyone would want on their team because you play hard and you're a guy that would just go out there and play. Now, away from the rink, probably not many people knew what you were kind of going through. So probably a little bit of player's guilt kind of made you be the player that you are, probably working your ass off because you didn't want anyone to find out what was actually going on with you. How was your drinking? Did it start evolving or was it slow? Did you notice it started to be a problem, or were you like, no, this is the culture. This has got a couple of my buddies on our team and this is normal. I'm never going to think it's a problem. Did it ever come to you that way?
Well, you know, I didn't grow up in a household that there was a lot of drinking and stuff like that. So I think at a young age, I did feel quite guilty. Like I hid a lot from my parents. They didn't know a lot about it. But like already at 16, I knew like this probably wouldn't be what I should be doing. But at the same token, like that was my one way to like deal with my emotions, cope with shit, because I never learned like tools to like calm myself down that I have today that would have like literally saved my life in those moments. I would have been a totally different player, but also a totally different person. Like, yeah, so the drinking got out of hand, which led to, you know, other things later in my career. But yeah, it was just something that, you know, I always leaned on. And I think a lot of us young guys did.
Yeah. So you're playing Bonnyville, well, Lloyd and then Bonnyville. Talk to me about your draft year. Talk to me about playing for the Saskatoon Blades, a WHL hometown kid. How was that? And then talk to me about, because I know you got sent down back to junior A. You went to the MJHL.
Yeah.
Obviously lit that up. We'll obviously get into that. But how was that whole transformation for you? Was it hard for you getting sent down? Was it hard for you playing in your hometown in the WHL? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, like Saskatoon, it's not really my hometown, I guess, but
Yeah,
it's
for
the
sure.
closest I could
Yeah.
be to, right? And so it was a really surreal and special moment to have my parents be able to just rip down from the farm, be 3 hours away, to be the Blades player as everyone knew you as. It was this really special feeling, and I held that really close to my heart. But that being said, you know, it was a difficult time because I was never a third, fourth line player. I was always like a fourth, fifth line player till like my third year. And by then, you see yourself as a Western Hockey League player. You see yourself as the dub guy. So when I did get sent down to the MJHL as a 20-year-old, you know, that was a huge shot to my ego. And by that point, I did start to realize, you know, maybe hockey isn't going to be the long-term thing. And I never knew myself outside of a hockey player. So that identity shift was really difficult. It was a huge shot to the heart.
Yeah, and you said it really important. I think we gotta touch on this a little more about when you're an athlete and you're a top end kid, midget AAA, maybe in your junior A, and you get up a level, and now you go from that fourth to fifth line. I could relate with that. I know myself, I didn't speak up. I tried dealing with it on my own, and I obviously took the easy way out of drinking and stuff. Was that kind of the same way with you, Harlan, because you said identity thing, where you were a top end kid and now you're a fourth, fifth liner? How did you deal with that? Because I know there's a lot of kids out there who do experience that. I think every athlete, unless you're a Bedard or McDavid, that go up a level, like it's easy for them, but everyone kind of goes through adversity at a certain time in their life, especially this. How did you deal with that? And because you said if you knew the knowledge now or back in the day that you know now, maybe it'd help you out. Do you want to share maybe an athlete is going through that? Totally. Is there anything that you could say to maybe help out that kid?
Well, you know, you have to, like I had told you in those notes, like you really got to look at yourself as a person. Like I felt like I always compared myself as a hockey player, like, oh shit, I'm on the fifth line. Like I'm not as good as the guys on the fourth line, or what can I do? Like, why is he better than me? What parts of him are better than me? But at the same token, I had so many amazing things going for me outside of hockey that I could have rested my hat on. And like that would build that confidence that would also help the hockey. But for me, like, I think it showed up, Deej, when I was struggling and dealing with that shot to the heart. Like I turned into someone I wasn't at the rink. You know, I'd act all happy-go-lucky. I'd act like I'd get the boys going. I'd be like, I was always known as the energy guy. That was my role by the end of it, and I really held on tight to that. But it wasn't what I was actually experiencing. And like you said, if I had someone to just reach out to, like yourself, Gio, myself, in that moment, just to talk it through and explain what was going on deep down, that would help so much. Like if you are a kid right now in junior and you are experiencing like the third, fourth, fifth line and that shot to the ego, going from that big fish in a small pond to, you know, a particularly small fish in a big pond, like you got to talk to someone. And it's so important to talk to someone that has that life experience, I find.
100%, man. And I can't go without mentioning the 20-year-old year in OCN, because this is aging me some, but the year we won the SJ. So again, old guy here, 0203, I want to say we played OCN
No
in the
way.
Anavet Cup.
Yeah.
And dude, there's never been a place I've been more excited to leave than after that 3-game set, man.
Yeah.
We split in Kindersley, and they pumped us 3 straight there to go on to the national tournament. And I was a 17-year-old kid, right?
Wow.
And it was just like, it was just a whole new world, and they just like fed off the crowd. And obviously they had some top end players as well, but it was just one of the wildest atmospheres I've ever played in, and I've played in some crazy ones. So what was that like, for one?
Yeah.
And then two, was that kind of when, because of the regression, so to speak, from major junior, did the partying ramp up, or just the numbing of feelings ramp up at that time, or was it post career that it really got out of hand?
I think it got really out of hand post career, but that's definitely where it ramped up.
Yeah.
That's when I definitely realized hockey wasn't going to be a future for me. But with that being said, Gio, like, that was an incredible atmosphere to play in as a home team. Like, I was a captain of the OCM Blizzard, and they just treated you like royalty there. And if I'm being quite honest with you guys, that was my best year of hockey production. And when I look back, it's because I wasn't putting so much pressure on myself. I felt like when I was in those big leagues, like in the Western League, in the AJ, I even played a couple games in the Q. I just didn't care. It sounds so bad, but I didn't care anymore. And I find when players do drop that, and it sounds bad when I say don't care, but when you just lose that sense of urgency and pressure on yourself to hit these self expectations that we make for ourselves, that's when I hit the 100-point mark. That's when I was leading the league, and it's because I was just enjoying myself. I probably wasn't enjoying myself in the right way, and I think I was numbing myself a lot outside the rink. But I find it interesting when guys actually put that pressure off themselves, as any athlete. All of a sudden they find their skills again. They found their true talents again. And it's because we try to be something we're not. And looking back, like in the dressing with the Blades and the AJ and all that thing, I just wish I just was myself. I wish I was just Logan Harland and quit trying to fit in, quit trying to act a certain way or be a certain type of player, and just play my game when I'm at the rink, and then do my own life when I'm away from the rink. And I feel like that would have probably led somewhere differently.
Yeah, I could relate with this big time, man. I didn't feel like I was in my own skin when I was in Everett too, in the Dead Boy Child. I don't know if it was all the extracurricular, it's kind of a mini professional league when you get out there. You're not playing in a shitty barn anymore. You're not playing in front of 300, 400 fans. Like, yeah, and it's hard. And then getting traded and all that. And I could feel when I went back to Kindersley, I felt like myself. And I think it's really important, Harlan, because when I work with athletes, there's a lot that message me and like, how did I look out there? If I went and watched them play, how did I look? How did I look on this play? I'm scared of what these scouts, and I don't have a contract, or I don't have a tryout yet. And when you said that, when you stop giving a shit, but not stop giving a shit, but like stop caring about everything you're going to do in the game, and you got better. You had a 100-point season when you stopped doing that. I think that is so cool, because a lot of athletes, all the extracurricular stuff that's going on, it's really hard for an athlete, scouts, parents, especially now, who am I going to get drafted to? Everything. That's unwanted pressure, and how these kids are thinking about the game, gripping the sticks too tight. And when you just relax and have fun out there, that's kind of when you start playing good.
And like, as a dad now, I really think a lot more about parenting, having 2 sons. And with the PWHL, you'll probably, do your girls play or not?
My oldest is softball, but I really want to
Awesome.
get my young one into it locally here,
yes.
man. Yeah.
I just find like, and it's not a shot to my parents, I think a lot of parents do this, we give too much credit to the external outcomes. What grade do you get on your test? How do you do compared to cousin Johnny? How many points did you have this year? What line are you on? If that's all we're talking about with our kids, we're going to get a very externally outcome to mind. Where as we get into, junior hockey, now we're thinking about, oh, what does the coach think? What do the other players think? What do the scouts think? When realistically, what do we think inside? How are we feeling about our game? How are we feeling about our life? Not just in the hockey, but away from hockey. And I think that carries into adulthood. Like, I work with a lot with like older men. And that's still a thing that we carry on from childhood. We don't learn to look inwards. And I'm not acting like an expert here. I deal with it too. You ask your boss, how am I doing? or you don't hear something from your boss for too long. It's like, oh God, what are
fuck,
they
yeah,
thinking,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where if we look internally, it doesn't give a shit what anyone else thinks, right? And I think we all struggle with that. And again, I'm not acting like an expert here, but as a new dad, that's something I really want to ingrain in my children. Like, I love you for you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for just being you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel with your kids already. Like you said, the miracle.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Honestly, even the limbs, if it's 3 limbs that come out, it don't matter, right? It's so special to be on this planet and to be a human. And if we start to incorporate that into athletics, like, I think it would totally change, a lot of our outcomes.
100%, man. And it's like, for me, what you touched on with the identity struggle and that external validation, like, literally I was in my 30s, man, before I understood that. It was when I first, like, recognized I needed to clean up and, like, actually try recovery. And this, like, shame piece has, like, followed me through so much of it. And I know you probably work with people who deal with this. It is just, even in a good stint of recovery here where I feel pretty grounded and locked in, that piece has carried me, or will creep in, rather, where suddenly I'm a lot, my inadequacy as a man, as a father, really as a person, will creep in and start messing with me mentally. So did you deal with that along the way? I mean, I'm sure post career, just that identity stuff must have crept in, because I know your childhood dream was to play in the NHL, right? Like a lot of young Saskatchewan hockey players. How do you deal with that today when it creeps back in sometimes?
I think I'll go back to right after I ended, like, that identity crisis, like, that kicked my ass. When I decided to quit, I remember telling my mom over supper, and her reaction bugged the hell out of me. Like, she wasn't
What
happy.
was it? Do you remember?
She wasn't super pumped
Yeah,
about it. Like,
yeah.
she was, and I can't blame her for it, because I think she was as on board as I was at that point, and I wasn't sharing where I was at mentally. So when I made that decision, for me, it's interesting how even the people around me were, like, questioning it, and that made me question myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not blaming anything, but that led to a ton of shame, like you said, and that led to hard drugs. It led to things to completely numb myself. I was doing things that, my parents and hometown kids hadn't even heard of before. And if it wasn't for seeking help and finding someone to help me find that internal validation and talk to someone about what I did love about myself, what I was compassionate about, the things that I did appreciate about myself outside of a hockey player, I don't know if I'd be sitting here chatting with you awesome fellas today, right? And I'm sure you guys have both been through very similar situations.
Yeah. When I just want to ask a question about when you shut her down with hockey. Like, what was it? Was it we were just sick and tired of it, and that transition, obviously, after that, do you want to kind of dive deeper in what you started to get into? Because you kind of said you were drinking in junior, doing the culture stuff, but you said it ramped up when everything is done. Probably sense of you let people down. Obviously, that's a big thing that came out of me. Your mom you scared to let down your hometown, your family, and then everything started escalating for me. Can you dive in deeper? I think this is important stuff.
Totally.
I did it too, man. Identity. Who am I? You're not Logan Harland, the hockey player anymore. You're not getting introduced as the hockey player anymore.
Yeah.
You're Logan Harland. Who am I now? How was that for you?
It was terrifying to look inward. And so I guess I'll just explain from my 20-year-old year in OCN, I had a great year on ice.
90-some points, hey?
Yeah, it was a beautiful year.
Yeah.
And then I got an offer from the U of R to play for the Cougars. So I played a year and took my first year of college, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was just there because I just knew that hockey was it. And my parents had always, my mom's a teacher, and there's a lot of education in my family. So she's always someone that pushed that kind of for me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that year, and I realized, you know what? I cannot do both of these. And I've learned since then, multitasking is impossible anyways. So at that point, I just made the decision, I got to give this up if I want to start working on something else. And I'm glad I did at the time. But once I gave that up, I remember that summer following, that's when shit really hit the rails. I'd played around with cocaine the first couple of years. For me, it was never, definitely an alcohol problem for me, but it's what the alcohol led to. As soon as I tasted those first couple beers, that's when I'd want to maybe indulge. And, I was doing university for a year and a half following that, and I was engaging in a ton of cocaine use and other drugs and just anything to make myself just not feel what I was feeling internally. I wasn't able to look inward. I remember looking at myself in the mirror at multiple nights and literally tearing up and crying and just being like, who the fuck are you, man? what have you become? What have you become? And given that I think a lot of athletes from such a young age, like I'd said at 14, like nothing else mattered other than hockey. That's who I was. Like I literally didn't know who I was. I knew I was supposed to pursue education because that's what my family taught me. I engaged in, hard drugs, including cocaine, acid, the list goes on. And it wasn't until, my family started picking up on the signs, and my mom being so persistent, she just like, you need to get professional help. You need to get professional help. You need to get professional help. And I remember thinking, fuck no, I don't need to talk to some professional that's going to ask me about my feelings. Like it made me very uncomfortable. I actually went to like probably 3 or 4 different counselors. I think I only showed up to 2 of them. Wasn't present, didn't think they could help me, didn't think they had the same life experience. And then I finally found someone who actually used to play another professional sport, and he just broke it down to me. I just felt heard for once. I felt like someone actually gave a shit, and they sat me down and heard me out. They saw me for who I was outside of a hockey player, and seeing him kind of turned not only into my role model but my inspiration. He taught me tools, he helped me get sober. And then next thing you know, I'm pursuing a degree in psychology, and I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to help out kids that also are dealing with those same issues and don't have someone to go and chat with. Because I find even today, like a lot of us are getting raised by traditional dads who very old school. They don't show their emotions. That's how we learn. We imprint on those we look up to as kids, and we learn how to show our emotions and express our emotions and deal with our emotions. And if we don't see any emotions growing up, and we only see anger, that's all we're going to show.
Yeah. No, that's some very important shit, man. And just to go back at kind of when you quit too, and obviously you're in U of R, Logan, like you probably had a couple free years of schooling because of the WHL, right?
Yes, that's one thing I encourage kids to like. It's beautiful to play in the Western League. It's beautiful to play in the A and the NHL and play professionally, but I encourage kids, like if you can get education paid for, it's way too expensive. It should be free, but
Yeah.
I did get to use it. I actually signed for an extra year in Vancouver, so I got all 4 years of my undergrad and the first year of my master's paid for, which I know my parents were very grateful for, and I was grateful for. And if it wasn't for that, who knows if I would have got through the education program. So I'm very grateful to the Western Hockey League for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And shared some awesome stuff there, Logan. And I think the biggest takeaway there was how you eventually found someone that you could trust to talk to. And I think that's like one of the biggest reasons DJ and I have done this is it doesn't have to be like for me in my 30s or for you
Yes.
your 20s, right? Like we want these young kids to speak out now. Maybe you're not as comfortable, even if you're close with your parents, they're just maybe not the people. Find someone. If you're in the hockey community or sports community, whatever it is, school community, there's got to be someone you can find that you trust and just have that initial conversation, and then someone you can lean on for so many reasons, right? The support, the outside perspective, guidance. And it's just, you said it best, man, like traditional parents, and it's nothing against them. Like our parents really only had to go off how they were raised, right?
Exactly.
And so it's this generational thing, and maybe it is starting to merge into something not softer, but just more compassion maybe at the end of the day, right? That like this is actually a proven thing now that people have internal struggles, and it can't just be buried or like drilled out of you. So I love how you voice that. And like what would you recommend for a young kid who's maybe looking to need to do that? Like, is there maybe avenues that aren't as accessible to do that for this younger generation?
Like you mean for like support?
Yeah, for support or like mentorship, those kind of things.
And I think like I feel biased because like I'm a Canadian certified counselor. Like you don't have to go to a therapist. Like it doesn't have to go talk to someone that has life experience. I run a men's group in town, and I learned more from those group of men that come through that door, not because of the textbooks they've read, not because of the classes or courses they've taken, but because of their life experience. Like I look at guys like my dad and my brother that have lived tirelessly on the farm, worked 24 hours a day. They've really had mental toughness and resilience, and I go to them for a lot of my shit in life. Like I think that's important. Like as a kid, I wasn't as comfortable, but anyone you feel comfortable or you maybe look up to as a role model, like I can almost guarantee they've been through the same type of stuff, if not worse. Go to them And yeah, there are professional counselors out there. If you're really struggling with like generalized anxiety disorder, or you feel like there's depression underneath all this, absolutely. There's tons of professionals, not just me out there, that are willing to chat, that want to open up and talk. And don't ever feel like you're going into a therapist and feeling like, oh my God, I got to see this person because mom told me to. Like, I remember feeling that way. Like, I got to talk, I got to act a certain way. You're not doing work if you're in there and you're not being authentic. Find someone who you're comfortable with, and obviously make sure they're a good role model and make sure they know their shit and they've been through it and they're taking care of themselves. But I think it's not a particular avenue you need to go down. Find someone you look up to. Maybe it's your grandpa. Maybe it's your brother. You know, maybe it's a cousin or a friend or a role model on the ice that you look up to. Reach out and talk.
And I think it's very important that you said if the first one that you go to, if that's not a right fit, it's okay to keep looking.
Yes.
Don't just give up. I really liked how you said that. And you're a man that's walked through that. That's why you inspire me, man. And I'm glad you're in my corner because you do have that life experience. And then with your story, what you just said, you went to your third, fourth counselor and you guys related with a lot of stuff. He was a former guy as well. And you let it out. And he kind of gave it to you the way it is and kind of gave you some tools and stuff.
Yes.
And boom. And now you're a certified counselor. That's what life's about. And no one's going to know anything if you're not talking, if you're not being vulnerable. Pick up your phone and call somebody. You know what I mean? So before we get going on our second half here, we're going to take a quick break on After Away from the Rink podcast. We're back at the studio by Showtime. Honestly, this place makes everything easy for us. If you're serious about starting a podcast, stop waiting. Book a session at the studio by Showtime. That's where we record, and they'll take care of everything for you. You could reach out to them at thestudiobyshowtime.com. Welcome back to episode 8 After Away from the Rink podcast with Logan Harland. Before we get back with Logan Harland, we got a video we want to pull up. Superstar Carolina Hurricane Seth Jarvis. I think this is very powerful. I love when NHLer superstars are talking about mental health, talking about their life experience. I know he talks about him struggling when he was 16 or 17 and him hearing real lived experiences from other guys is helping him out. So do you want to play this video and I'll get Logan to kind
Probably
of tell him how he
around
feels.
16 or 17, I think I really started to realize the impact it was having on me. I think I didn't like how it was making me feel. I thought I lost a lot of my personality and who I was, and I was kind of just there. I wasn't really present in the moment, and I think that's when I realized my mental health's kind of draining me and bringing me down. So I still didn't really talk to anybody about it, but I would look up techniques and just listen to stories of other people going through it and just trying to grab advice from them. And so now that I'm getting a better handle on it, I'm hoping to do the same for others. I think everyone's going through something. Obviously, people are going through different things in life, and I think just knowing that you're not alone and that there's always something that someone's fighting, and no matter the scale, it's all important, and just to take care of yourself and, again, remember, not alone.
Just that small clip, I know that's going to help out somebody out there, just hearing it from Seth Jarvis himself. You know what I mean? Harlan, what do you got to say? Any thoughts on that video?
First of all, I love Seth Jarvis.
Yeah.
I just find he's so real. I think there's so many NHLers out there once they make the league, like, and hockey players in general, where you hold up this facade like you're something that you're not. And he's just always being so himself, and it's so nice for young kids to be able to look up to someone like that. But yeah, he said reach out. He said be vulnerable. Don't be scared to like open up. But like one thing I also recognize is he talked about like being present. Like at 16, 17, he realized he wasn't present. When I talk to a lot of these young kids today, we're living in the future, wanting to make the NHL or wanting to make the line the next game or wanting to get to this many points by the end of the year. Or we're living in the past where, we said something stupid at school, or, we shouldn't have done that play, or the coach is thinking about this play from last game. But I think the key for anyone, not just hockey players, is being present, being mindful in the moment. And I think there's so many tools we can do to just bring ourselves back to the immediate moment. Like, and there's, it's a very rudimentary tool, but like the 5 senses, that's something I use all the time when I'm really stressed and I'm not here. And I realize I'm not here with my 2 boys. I need to be present. I need to be a dad, not just physically here, but mentally here. I'll talk to myself, what are 5 things I can, what are 5 different things I can see? What are 4 different things I can hear? And I go through all my senses. And it's so important that we develop these little tools or breathing tools, things that can just bring us back to the moment. Because I think the most fulfilling way to experience our greatest mental health is to be here and now and not living somewhere else. A lot of us trying to play time travelers and figure out, what is going to happen, that what we don't know, but we do know that we can control and handle what's happening here right now.
Yeah, and I loved how you said that self-talk to yourself. I kind of want you to elaborate on that a bit, because I spoke, Harland, at the BJM high school there the other
Yes.
day, and I always ask the kids, the boys and the girls, I ask the boys, how many of you guys journal? Not one kid raised his hand, and the girls, all of a sudden you get 20 of them raising their hand. What are some things that help you now that you're sober, now that you're a counselor? What are some things that keep you moving forward and that you found? You always talk about the tools.
Yeah.
You always talk about the things you've learned that help Logan stay sober and a newly father. What are some things that help Logan Harland today?
Well, I'll start with journaling because
Yeah.
it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's any type of journaling, but for me, it's gratitude work. I've always been the kind of kid that beat the shit out of myself mentally. I would I'm the worst. I'm a terrible player. I'm a terrible person. I can do better at this. I can do better at that. But I never gave myself grace for doing things. And I try and talk to myself like I'm my own best friend. And the reason it's so helpful to actually write things down is because it triggers that logic center. And so many of these young kids are living in their, emotion processing center in the amygdala, and they're always freaking out. They're ruminating on things. But when we can actually put things down on paper, we can see it for what it is. We can logically look at how we're thinking about things. And that's why it's so important to get things down on paper. Breathing. And it's it's funny. I'll talk to my wife about it. I still play video games at 31, if you can believe it. And I'll start to get anxious sometimes in these games. Like the game's getting tight, or like, oh my God, there's a guy on my ass on Warzone or whatever it might be. And I'll have these headphones on. I can't hear myself outward. And my wife will always say, like, do you realize you stop breathing sometimes, or you breathe like very quickly or shallower? And I was like, what? Like, I didn't really even consciously realize that. So I'm trying to be more conscious of my breath. It sounds so silly, but like at night I put on breath strips on my nose and I just focus on breathing in. I'll do like some sigh breathing, and this is gonna look really silly, but like you breathe in all the way. Then at the end, and you sigh it out. Like little tricks like that really help just like calm your nervous system down and just bring you back into the moment. Physical activity, biggest thing for me. That is my therapy, and I think that's why I grew up on the farm. I was always so physically active. I'd be in the gym, like that always, it's so helpful. That's why they have walk and talk therapy now, because I guess we can process emotions and express things better when we're moving our bodies. And I bet both you guys coming from, athletic backgrounds probably have that exact same experience.
Yeah, no question. And man, you shared a lot of good stuff there. I liked just to go back to the Jarvis piece, like the one thing he said that really resonated with me is everyone struggles with something. And I think that's so important. Like, yes, we obviously have a passion for youth and that mentorship angle and helping the next generation. But I think even beyond that, there's a larger scale of just like real world struggles for so many people, if not everyone. And so we want to be able to help those people too and have those people relate. So wanted to touch on that and some great techniques you brought up. I try to do like the 4-point breathing as well,
yes.
man. Need to be better at journaling. You guys you've both mentioned that now, and I need to do it more. A big tool I learned early on, just a simple saying, and it's ties into what you were explaining about the present, being present. So if I'm rehashing the past at all or rehearsing the future, probably not in a good place, right? Future tripping, whatever you want to call it.
I love that.
That's been really helpful for me, man. But I wanted to ask you, like, and maybe this is like to help me in being selfish, but the balance angle, just with what I was talking about at the start with my struggles. So just with, the parenting, professional life, personal accountability, it can really add up, right? What are some tricks, man, to maybe help you just be grateful for one, obviously, but just not go insane, dude, with like the happenings of life?
Oh, and you know what? This is a constant struggle for me too. I think it is for all of us, no matter what field you're in. One little trick I do use, like to compartmentalize between each place, like being a father, being a counselor, whatever else. It's like I'll literally change my physical clothing. Like when I get to work, I'll have a different pair of shoes I wear, maybe a different shirt, maybe a different scent. And it actually it changes your sensations in that moment. It helps you bring you to the present. But I'm not sitting here acting like I know what I'm doing, like myself, because it is hard being a father. I totally get it, where it's like it's never, I always think it's funny how everyone thinks it's always like a 50-50 balance. I don't know if it ever is. It's just trying to manage, maybe my family needs a little bit more of me right now. maybe that's going to be me taking some more time off counseling, not having as many available appointments. Or, you know, for me, when I had this new preemie, had to make the really tough decision, which I've never done in my life. I took a month off work. And at first I felt this sense of guilt, like, what am I doing? Like, how can I be letting my clients down? How can I be not making money for my family? But then I thought, no, my family needs me right now.
For sure.
That's interesting stuff, Harlan. Like, how did you overcome that? Because you took a month off work. Everyone knows, especially today, you got to work, you got to provide, you got to work, you got to provide. But you took a step back and you're like, my family needs me. How did you get to that point? Because I can't relate, obviously, without any kids, but I can relate in certain situations in my life where I got to go. If I take a step back, then I'm taking a step back. And I think that's to do with everything with kids and hockey and everything. It's a whole nother story. But how did you get over that, Harlan?
That's hard. Like, and I know what you mean. Like, it almost feels like society's moving past you. Like, do you guys find that society's like very rushed today?
Yes.
Like, it feels like everyone's looking over the fence, being like, "Oh, where are they at? Where are they at?" Like, and I think again that comes back to that outward validation, that external validation, just looking inside and being like, "What's important to me right now?" Sure, maybe, you know, like a couple clients might be upset that I'm not there consistently. I'll be back eventually. Right now, presently, my family needs me. And I think, DJ, and you said it yourself at the start, like the miracle of having a kid, it's something interesting. Like, it totally changed, especially having a preemie at 4 pounds. Like, when you're actually worried about your child's life, like, I think that really was an easy decision. It sounds silly to say because, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, right, a month off work. That's crazy. I'm going to be so behind everyone. Everyone's going to be at the finish line. There's no finish line. It's not a race. So I just consistently telling myself and reaffirming myself that, like, I will get there when I get there. But right now, my kids, my wife, and my family need me. And it's been the most rewarding feeling. And I came back and everything's great. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I could bet that you got to where you be from everything that you've been through personally. And you could handle certain situations better. Hell, you're not scared to open up. And that's why you got this profession. You're Logan Harland, you're a counselor now with your past. I wanted to ask you, and you don't have to answer this if you want, but in today's world, you're obviously working with all acts of life. Is there any like things that everyone that can relate with that is struggling? And if you have an answer that Harlan, is there something you could tell these listeners maybe that could help them that is going through that?
Yeah, I think it's always a mindfulness. Like, whether we're feeling depressed and having a low mood, that probably means we're living in the past. If we're feeling anxious, like you said, Gio, we're probably playing forward. What was that word you said? I love that.
Rehash or rehearse.
I love that. Rehash or rehearse. And then you had another word for like the future, when we're like caught up in the future.
Future tripping.
Yeah, I love future tripping. I've never heard that before. Can I use that?
Of course, yeah.
No, but I just think it's really learning to embrace what's happening right now, live right now. And like, that's what I feel from every single person. Doesn't matter if you're feeling with like anxiety, loss, depression, you know, addictions, like we're often not living right now. So if I was going to find a universal, it would be like embracing mindfulness and embracing your authentic self. And that authentic self piece, I learned that a lot through my master's. That's my supervisor, Shannon Hurley. She's the owner of Evolve Counseling Wellness with Kristen Humphreys. And, you know, she taught me a lot about like embracing who you are deep down. And she caught it right off the bat when I was in my master's. She's like, I feel like you're maybe like living for others sometimes. And like, you sometimes need to hear that and realize like, holy shit, I need to live for myself and what I need right now, and not what it might look like in 5 years or 2 years. Or I find a lot of people get caught up with financials. But I also probably understand that most people are, you know, dealing with debt, and that's a stressful thing. But just reminding ourselves, like, I'm still here. I got a roof over my head. That's something my dad tells me all the time. He's like, you realize there's people that literally don't have a roof over their head. They don't have food to eat. Like, be grateful for who you are right now, what you have in your corner right now, because it's so easy to look at that glass half empty.
So easy.
So easy.
Thank you. That has helped me so much, man. Like, just conversations like this, because I could relate with that, man. There's so many times. Hey, G, can you relate with that a bit?
Yeah, 100%. And just even I can share a quick story. Was just hesitant to do what you said with my 4-year-old daughter with the comparison of gratitude. Like, again, I was hesitant because she's 4 and like still processing emotions or learning how to, but just showed her a couple YouTube videos of like the starving children in Africa and stuff, you know, and just like lightly explained like, hey, like, you have a really good life. Like, you have a lot of people that love you. You never have to go hungry. And, it slightly resonated. She's brought it up a couple times since.
Wow.
So I think like but I have to utilize that too, man, because you brought up the financials. Like, that's a big piece. It's like, I need to be this provider, and I need, you know what I mean? We need to like handle money better, and just like, it's at the forefront of the mind so often. But when I draw it back a bit and just recognize I'm doing these purposeful things, it doesn't have to be about the bankroll. And you're right. I think so many people just get caught up in that. Their whole worth is centered around the annual income, right? It's
Totally.
like,
I think
just
that
more-
comes back to that male mind, that male alpha having to provide, having to have all that income and no worries. But sorry, fellas, we're men and we fucking have feelings too. And it's okay to ask for help in certain situations like this. And I want to bring this up. It's the perfect time. Harlan, you're doing incredible work. I want you to touch on this new brotherhood that you're doing.
Oh,
I kind of, when you first started doing it, I started coming, and the immaculate work, I know you're up to 3 groups now. So do you kind of want to explain what you do? And it's fascinating, man. You got men with stories that are struggling, that have a sense of purpose, comfortable walking into an environment and be able to talk about certain subjects. Hats off to you, my friend. You want to explain?
Absolutely. First of all, yes. So it was kind of part of my master's program. I created a men's group where guys could just come and open up and talk about like, well, a lot of us prairie dudes, deal with, mental health, which is stoicism, having this traditional, toxic masculinity, having to be the tough guy, having to be quiet. And, at first it's how many were of us in the first group? What, 6?
Yeah,
7?
there was, yeah.
Hardly any.
Yeah.
So we started that, and it really has grown the past 2 years, where there's like 80 guys in our group chat now. And we have 3 different groups that run bi-weekly, and we just sit down and have pizza and talk about like life experience, addiction, relationships. The list goes on. And it's so incredible. Like, for me, it's one thing to, come up with this group, but I've learned more in that group that I've have in forever. Like, it's so incredible getting every person's different story. And that's another way that really helps me, Gio, like, realize that my glass is half full, because you go in there and realize, holy cow, I'm not the only man struggling. I guess that's the whole point of the group, is you realize like, this is universal. A lot of men are struggling with the same things, but just do not have the ability to open up about it. So like, if there are any men in the Saskatoon area just want to come and chat and just gain some insight on what others are going through, and maybe help yourself with what you're going through, like, by all means reach out, because there's always a spot available.
That's incredible, man. Yeah.
Huge.
I'm interested, for
Hell
one.
yeah, Gio.
I do recovery stuff locally, and get a little bit of that. But, for me, sometimes it's substance oriented. So I'm not able to talk about some of the other struggles. And in some cases today, like, it's not about not drinking or using for me today. Like, I feel I'm at a pretty good place with that, but it's these other struggles that come up. And yeah, I think community is just such a big piece, right? That just didn't have it before. Like I said, didn't know any of this stuff till 3 decades into my life. That's the reality. But thankful I at least got it when I did. Yeah, I think community is everything in all aspects, right? Sports,
Totally.
recovery, brotherhood. I love that word you use, because that's what it is, man. That's what we're doing here. It's a brotherhood, right? Sisterhood, communal.
Yeah.
And that's the buy-in for me today.
And I even look at my wife, like, she is someone who, obviously it's not easy to have 2 preemie babies in your life. And she's found groups around Saskatoon where they go walk around with their strollers in the mall and just like do physical activity together and just like share experiences that they all go through together. And it just gives you that sense of connection and hope that like there is a way out of this. There's people that understand what I'm going through. They're in my corner. And then, I do think men's groups and that kind of thing aren't as apparent, because I know my wife, if she's going through struggles, and if they're about me, she's pretty easy to call up 2 friends, go for coffee, hash it out. She comes back a different woman, where I find it a lot more difficult for myself. And I would assume a lot of other men to like have that same response. Lots of us, grab onto, our Nick sticks or chew or whatever it might be, alcohol for some. Or it could be high risk behaviors where we don't usually have that group that we're comfortable enough just going to, being like, this is what's going on. So I felt very proud about just having that opportunity for men to have that. And I think it has changed a lot of men's life in our community.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And love how you guys said that, because you guys know back in the day, women get together, they'll go maybe grab a bottle of wine, but they're talking about life shit. They're talking about their
Real
family,
shit.
real shit. Us men will, there's a game going on. Everyone's bringing a case of beer. We're talking about dumb, pointless shit. And we have to get blackout drunk in order for someone to maybe say something, but fuck, who's going to remember the next day? So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's not like when I was going through it, fellas, I think you guys can relate. Like, I wasn't out there looking for the help, but man, if there was someone who like grabbed me, like, Deej, come with me to this, like a brotherhood group, like someone who doesn't have a title to their name, but somebody you just go and just be like, fuck, like I feel like I'm, wanted. I feel like if I talk, people are going to relate with me. And that's so fucking powerful, man, is just hearing stories and hearing people sharing, because it's powerful, man. I know when I hear your story, I know, like, fuck, I feel not alone anymore, and I don't think it's a feeling that's ever going to go away. But Harlan, man, I got one last question for you. I know G probably has one for you, and I like asking my clients. You've been through the ropes, man. You're a Saskatchewan boy. A lot of Saskatchewan dream was to make it to the NHL. You're a hell of a hockey player. You're kind of like me. You kept things inside. We're too scared to talk. We're so worried about the outsiders and how we're performing and making sure everyone is happy, and forgetting to fill up our own cup. I always like to say we're too busy filling up everybody else's cup, but we forget to fill up our own cup, and then freezing our feelings with drugs and alcohol, where, we didn't know how to handle it. It's the easy escape route in doing it. I want to ask you, I want you to go back to when you had to make that hard decision to move, to quit hockey. I think that's important. And when your mom, you're having that chat around the kitchen table, because after you did that, you said you kind of had that sense of remorse that you let your parents' hometown down, and you were struggling. You kind of went off the rafters. You started doing acid, you started doing coke, you started drinking, and kind of went on a spiral. If you could go back to that time, let's say you're Logan Harland at that time, what is something that you could maybe tell him?
That's a really great question. I would ask Logan to ask himself. I was always the what if guy. What if? What's going to happen now that I don't have hockey? But now I've learned to ask, then what? In a positive way. You know what I mean? Like, give myself hope. Look at the glass half full. Start to look inward and what skills I developed as a kid. What kind of teammate I was, what kind of friend I was, what kind of, son I was. If I started to look at that guy and started to work on that gratitude portion of it, I think I'd be a much different person. But for words, I'd just be like, you're going to be okay, man. I think I needed to hear that. It's like, you're going to be okay. Because I think a lot of us can start to ruminate and really kick the crap out of ourselves with negative self-talk. And I know that's what I was doing. I just was really, really, really kicking the crap out of myself. I just needed someone to say, you're going to be okay.
Man, every one of our guests have said the exact same thing, including myself. If when we were at our rock bottoms and we were struggling the most, if someone could just said, hey, you're going to be okay. Hey, G.
Yeah, man. I mean, it just, it wasn't there. I was just so self-critical and unable to, you brought it up earlier, just didn't know who I was after I'd lost the game that gave me so much, right? First 30 years of my life was hockey, and then now what? And so I turned to substances. But yeah, I just really appreciate you sharing today, man. I think for me, the only last thing I want to ask, and you've kind of answered it throughout, but I just want to talk about purpose. And I can only assume that fatherhood's in the mix, and obviously your career and stuff. But beyond that, maybe something you're looking for here in the near future or down the road to help define that purpose and just give that added fulfillment to life.
I just love that question because that's what I'm in search of right now. I think we all are always looking for a new sense of purpose. By the way, read A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's absolutely incredible because he was a Polish psychiatrist in the 30s, and he was actually put into Auschwitz.
Wow.
And the camps for 4 years, and he knew his wife had died. He knew he had all his papers shred. He was literally just a number. And yet he found purpose in that camp. And he kind of came up with this idea of logotherapy, finding meaning. And that really inspired me. If someone like that in those circumstances is able to find purpose and meaning in their life, how can I? And I think a lot right now it's interesting because I think I've learned that, and I was talking to my dad about this. I find a lot of meaning in the suffering, and Frankel talks a lot about that. I think a lot of us, that grew up in hockey where things were done for us, coursework is half done for you. You get bussed everywhere, you get fed, you get used to comfortability. And it's almost like you chase that as you get older to be comfortable. So I think for me, it's just continuously learning to embrace the suffering and the tough times, knowing that it's probably for the purpose of my family and my two boys. And I just want to continue to build a legacy for them, but a positive legacy that they can look up to one day and be like, wow, like I have, a positive role model I can follow and someone who I can go to if things do falter. So yeah, definitely check out that book if you guys haven't already.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Embrace the suffering. Yeah, that is huge, man. I think adversity is tough to come by nowadays, especially with these younger generation, right? I think it's huge. I'm thankful I went through what I did because I wouldn't be the human who I am today. Gee, I know you could say that about yourself, how this After Away from the Rink podcast wouldn't be born with, lived experience and going through the ringer and dealing with those mental health things. But Logan, man, thank you so much. I know I've learned a lot. I know people are going to listen to this is going to learn a lot because this is important stuff. 3 men who have been through it, now giving back. And Logan's is a full-time counselor now and doing all these great things and creating that brotherhood. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, Harland, Logan, about that, about maybe asking you a question, maybe want to pick up some sessions with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Totally. They just check out Evolve Counseling, yxc.com, I think it is, and just look for my name and my pretty bald head, and and you should be able to find me. I also have a private practice in Lloyd on Fridays that I kind of work at too. So if you are in the Lloyd area and you are looking for just someone to talk to, you can find me online, reach out, and yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super important. We learned a lot today. I want to thank you so much. If anyone out there is struggling, and if there's one thing you could take about this episode, 3 of us struggled, and I'm a firm believer that all 3 of us found our purpose, and we're using our past to help out. So if any of you guys out there that are going through right now, it could be that one conversation, it could be that in your story right there, whatever you're going through could help out that next person. So make sure you guys are talking, make sure you guys are picking up those phones, because hey, it's okay to not be okay, right guys? It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be sad, be mad. Hell, it's okay to wake up on the wrong side of the bed, but fucking pick up your phone, because we matter and we are never alone. That is episode 8 of the After Away from the Rink podcast. Host DJ McGrath, got my co-host Giovanni Flaminio, and that is episode 8 with Logan Harland.